Victoria.
Her brother.
Dude, I had this one client. I kind of like miss the walk-in. No, I don't, but like I like to think about him. Like when I would take walk-ins, like I had this one client. He would just show up every fucking Sunday, and it was like his break from his family. Like he's like, finally I made it to Sunday. I get to go over to the tattoo shop, chill with the boys, right? We weren't his boys, right? And he would come to the tattoo shop with like 30 beers. It's not an exaggeration. And drink all of them in like 2 hours.
You just get hammered?
Trash, bro.
Damn.
And like, I kept telling him, I was like, yo, you got to make an appointment. You can't just show up here
And get trashed.
get trashed. Yo, but every Sunday, either my appointment would cancel or somehow I'd have open time. And I'd be like, yeah, I guess I'll just take it, man. So I was like teaching him that it was okay to continue to do this.
Yeah, it was a learned behavior. Like, you
bro.
enable him. You're an enabler.
So it was just as much my fault as whatever. And then like one day, like enough was enough. I didn't want to do it anymore. Like my career was getting to the point where like I was actually booking out because he would show up and get upset. And I'd be like, I kind of liked him. I was like, well, at this point,
you had to like him enough to let him drink 30 beers in the shop every
every
5 hour Sunday.
wait. For
I'll
like,
wait.
for like a client that I wasn't friends with prior, like we were cool.
Yeah.
We were cool. He's a good guy. But I was getting frustrated with him because I was like, you have to set an appointment because I felt bad that I couldn't tattoo him. And if he set an appointment, I was totally fine with tattooing him every Sunday. Like, let's just set a standing appointment. You've literally come here every Sunday for months.
Right.
You know? So then his drinking gets worse, and you can tell that it's like probably an issue for him and more importantly, his family. And his like wife's coming in and kind of being like, don't let him drink. Almost like she's keeping her eye on him.
It's like such an awkward position to be in.
I was down for it though.
Yo.
So then he comes in alone. He's like, he's trashed. She's there. She's mad he's trashed. He's trying to make up for it by telling me he's going to get her name tattooed on him. Like, babe, I'm getting your name tattooed. Like, that's why I'm drunk, you know? Like, just not making sense, trying to, whatever.
Right.
He comes back the next day without her, and it's like, yo, I want to get my wife's name tattooed on my finger. I was like, yeah, like, let's run it. And he's like, yeah, I'm like, what's her name? He's like, Katie, which is my sister's name. And the way he spelled it was like K-A-Y. He was like throwing in letters. Now, I'm pretty familiar with this name and the spelling. And I understand, you know, people spell their name different. But I'm like, yo, are you sure that's
how you spell
how you spell? Which I was hesitant to ask because, like, yo, asking another man, like, are you sure that's how your wife spells her name? Because
was he trash?
Yeah.
He was trash?
Trashed. And he's like, bro, you think I don't know how to spell my own wife's name?
What was it, K?
And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, that was a dumb question. I'm sorry I asked. I was concerned that I probably shouldn't ask. Like, I was all nervous about it. I did it anyway, and I fucked up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't mean to be offensive.
Yeah.
But you
whatever
are
you
drunk.
want.
You are very drunk.
right. So we, like, tattooed the name, and I'm like, all right, cool, we're done. Next day, he comes back in with his wife, and he's like, I spelled the name wrong. I was like, bro, you spelled your own wife's name wrong? He's like, yeah, I was a little drunk. So this was the beginning of the end for him. So he just like kept coming in. At this point, like I didn't want to tattoo him anymore. The drinking was just too much of an issue. So now I was kind of avoiding him. Or like when he would come into the shop, I'd be like, hey, sorry, I'm busy all day, whatever. You have to set an appointment. I was being more stern. I wasn't like cool John anymore.
Right.
I'm doing this tattoo. You know, this is a couple weeks later. I haven't really seen him since. I'm like, all right, cool. He found somewhere else to go, or maybe he went to rehab or something. It was at that point. I'm stressed out. I'm doing this tattoo. I'm setting up a palette for this tattoo, and my phone like keeps going off. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I like look, it's a number I don't know. I click it, And my boss can tell I'm stressed. And he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, dude, someone's called my phone like 5-6 times in a row. I'm already stressed about this tattoo. You know, you're in a walk-in shop. The vibe is like getting ready. It's too much going on. So then my boss types in the number, and I guess he has his number saved too. And he goes, oh, it's coming up as this person's name. Let's say it's Cam. That's not his name, but I don't want to use his real name, even though I remember it. And I'm like, oh, Cam. I'm like, yo, that's that fucking guy. And my boss is like, oh, like the drunk guy that comes in? I'm like, yeah. And then he calls again my phone, and I look at it, and I know his first and last name. Let's say it's Cam Fonte. And I look at my phone, and I'm like, not today, motherfucker. Throw it up. Or I'm like, oh, Chris, this is Cam Fonte. And I go, not today, motherfucker. And I throw up the phone in the air, like onto my bed. And like as I'm watching it land, his face is right there.
No way.
And I'm like, oh no. Like I just screamed this man's first and last name. I said, not today, motherfucker. Laughed at my boss. Ha ha ha. Fuck the drunk guy. Right? And he's right there. My first thought is, why are you calling me when you're standing right next to me? Right? And he looks over at me and he goes, that was rude. I'm like, fuck. I look at my boy, I look at my boss, and he's dying laughing at me. I can't figure out if he knew he was there or not, which would be even more funny. And I literally just walked out the back door.
It's my last day.
Bro, I'm setting up for the tattoo, so I walk out the back door. I'm just like standing there, like thinking of how I can get out of this. Finally, my boss walks back outside, and he's like, yo, there's nothing you can do. He's like, bro, you said his first and last name. I'm like, fuck, bro.
You should
Not
just bought him a 30-pack.
Yeah. Like,
You know, I didn't even think about that. So, like, I was probably out there for 10 minutes thinking of which way I could get out of this, and I couldn't. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to go apologize. So I, like, went up to him, and I'm like, hey, sorry, man. I'm really stressed out today, and I couldn't figure, and that wasn't fair or whatever. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. Anyway, can I get tattooed? and I was like, you know, no, and I ended up never seeing that guy again.
Was he drunk?
Again.
What?
Was he drunk that time?
I'm sure he was, Cam.
Just making sure.
It was
You
probably
think
your
he's
dad.
watching right now?
You think he was Cam's dad?
Could have been.
Could have been.
I don't think he's watching right now. And if he is watching right now, he's probably in recovery and has an amazing life. And
I hope so.
he's embarrassed about previous behavior like that.
If you're watching right now, John has time today.
If you're watching and you haven't found recovery, Jeff owns a treatment center. It's called Moving Mountains.
I will help you. Moving Mountains Recovery.
What if you asked him, like, what the fuck did you want? I was just calling to see how you were, man. What's all? 7 calls in a row?
I was just calling because like I took your advice and I wanted
Dude, it
to
was
set up an
literally
appointment.
like a movie. Like the phone went in slow motion and was like flipping, and every time the screen faced me, it would like glimmer light into my eye, and all of a sudden his face is there, and he's like, that was rude. And I'm like, oh no, dude.
Dude, what if it happened again? Like, it's very similar. You're like, why is this fucking guy calling me? And then he's just standing behind.
Have you ever had a crazy, embarrassing moment like that at a tattoo shop?
I don't